All right, welcome to Are You Supplementing Right? And I have a few disclaimers here that I want to share. This is just for educational purposes only, and please consult your doctor before acting on any of this content of this webinar. And the quality and quantity of my coaching services are not dependent on any product or service. And here's some sources that I used today to design this webinar for you. So you can use these a little bit later. Feel free to dive more into this research if this interests you. So does your supplement cabinet look like this or someone that you know? So if you're not sure if the supplements you're taking are helping you or if the dosing is correct or you have pill fatigue or you're totally overwhelmed by the amount of health information out there, or like many of our clients, they get excited and they buy the latest supplement based on a podcast or video that you saw on social media. Um, or you have a 23andMe ancestry report and it looks like alphabet soup to you. Or if you were like me and you believe, or you used to believe that you should be getting everything you need as far as nutrients from your food, this is a really good webinar for you. You're in the right room because you're going to get a chance to understand what is personalized supplementation. And it can be simple and it can be economic. Um, Genetic information can be really interesting, but a simple, applicable solution is even better. So with this information, you're going to get a chance to take action on your genes with lifestyle recommendations and replace the majority of your supplements in your cabinet with one based on your genes. Okay. So it's hyper personalized, it's all in one, and it's at an affordable price. So if you stick with me towards the end, I have a special offer for those of you that are on the call. And let's get into it. So nutrigenomics is a field, a science that I'm just going to explain briefly. We're going to look at 22 gene or genetic markers. We're going to look at some case studies today, and then I'm going to show you how you can supplement based on your genetic deficiencies. So you're going to go from like Sarah, who had vitamin D levels in 2019 at 21.6, trending at 24.3, to optimal, not just, in range, but optimal vitamin D levels. This particular client had never been in optimal range and thought that if she moved from Seattle to San Diego, that she would increase her levels, and they never did. So when you have a chronic disease, having optimal vitamin D levels is really cool. Or you could be like my husband here, who is skeptical and wants to, really go through the cost and understand the savings. So you're already spending a ton on supplements if you actually, budget it out. So why not, get 10 times more supplements for around the same price based on you? So if you're skeptical, please keep watching. I invite you. So this is me and Hubs. And I have a couple stories that I typically share, but this one that I'm going to share today is just that I used to work as a clinical counselor trainee with students with substance abuse and mental health symptoms back in 2011 to 2015. And I always thought when I sat down with these students, like, what would happen if they went to bed before 3 a.m.? Or what would happen if they had something other than hot Cheetos for lunch, or they started exercising, or they didn't take their heavy-handed medication, um, and just started with lifestyle. And I wasn't able to ask these questions because of professional scope reasons, but that's exactly what I'm working in now, is that I really work in preventative and lifestyle medicine, and that is the forefront or the front lines of physical and mental health support. So I like the term for my mentor teachers called foundational medicine, and that's what I work in today. So I've tested over 100 clients and their genes, and so let's get into it. All right, so these are some depressing statistics. I only have 2 slides. This is kind of going to bum you out. I'm sorry about that in advance, but this was me. I thought I could get all my nutrients from food, even organic food. And the reality is that the nutrient levels in the United States have decreased significantly due to industrial agricultural, oh my gosh, I can't say that word, agriculture, monocropping, and synthetic fertilizers. So some studies say that the mineral content has declined by 25 to 75% depending on where you test the soils. And the average transportation of a vegetable or a piece of food travels average around 1,500 miles from soil to plate. And this is where the nutrients they start to lose nutrients due to decay. And then ultra processed foods are completely stripped of nutrients. So only 1% of the US farmland acreage is currently certified organic, and about 1.5% of farmland is implementing regenerative practices that facilitate nutrient-rich crops and meats. And so the majority is these GMOs. All you have to do is take one trip to the middle of our country where my husband's family is from, and where 30 years ago he would pick soybeans and or corn. I mean, it's still the same as it was 30 years ago. And our cells are basically swimming in a big toxic soup. So not only are we dealing with nutrient deficiencies, but our toxic burden has shot up from 10 toxins per cell in 2008 to a staggering 500 toxins per cell in 2018. So our bodies were never designed to deal with these lack of nutrients and this toxic burden, and everybody's genes are staggering under this kind of weight. And this is where nutrigenomics comes into play. And this is a science studying the relationship between the human genome, the genes, and human nutrition and health. And so it helps us understand how diet can alter a person's genes to work more functionally and in fact affect our health. So the human genome was mapped in 2003, and half of it we get from mom and half of it we get from dad. And this is our body's blueprint. And these genes code for proteins like the color of our eyes, but they also, are the blueprint for muscles, digestion, protective antibodies, our protective antibody signaling, etc. And humans are, we're all about 99.9% genetically similar, but what makes us unique are our variants called SNPs, or single nucleotide polymorphisms. So we're not going to talk today about genetic risks like the APOE4, the Alzheimer's gene, or the BRCA gene, the breast cancer gene. But we're going to look at variants and ways to help support these actionable genes with vitamins, minerals, cofactors that can increase your health span. That's like what I want and what a lot of my clients want. So it's really like looking at the soil and asking what it needs to be healthy again, enriching it with certain, vitamins, minerals, cofactors, so that the nutrients can affect the person's genome, the proteome, the metabolome, all these ohms. It's basically the raw materials our bodies need to affect and optimize genetic function. So there are 1 million single nucleotide polymorphisms. Each one of us have about 1 million, but nutrigenomics looks at the key actionable genes, and this is what your SNP nutrition report looks like. So you can have a heterozygous, which is basically meaning that you have a variant on a gene and both parents issued you an allele for that gene. It's like essentially a variant. So that means that you may need some more nutritional support for that genetic or gene or pathway to work optimally or function optimally. Same goes with this single variant, one parent issued you a variant, and then a green is where neither parent issued you a variant. So I love SNP reports because it's like the Chicago subway. It's really it's color coded, and it goes away from all the numbers or the letters, I should say. So it moves away from the alphabet soup. Um, okay, so the 22 actionable genes are grouped together because we want to look at groupings of genes because they all interact together versus just treating or working on one single SNP. So there's reports for healthy BMI or cardiovascular health, cognitive and brain function, energy, healthy inflammatory response, methylation, mood. And once you know which SNPs you have, your health issues start to make a lot more sense. And so do your emotional issues too. So that's nutrigenomics in a nutshell. And I wanted to go over some of the key markers, and then I'll have you ask any of your questions today. So before I get into the markers, I get it. It can be pretty frustrating out there because there's so many people telling you what to do for your health. And what I'm going to say is that, keep doing those lifestyle, eating right, going to bed early, exercising, that supports your health. And even the biohacking, like I'm a biohacker myself, don't stop drinking your hydrogen-rich water, keep monitoring your macros or getting in your infrared sauna. If you're seeing improvements in your health, don't stop. I'm just going to talk today about what making this all a little bit easier. So that's my goal. And just to show you, like, we know that 80 to 90% of our health is determined by our lifestyle environment. But what I want to point to is this hierarchy of health is like, let's look at the very bottom of this hierarchy of health ladder, which is genes. This is where I start with clients. This is why it makes so much sense to look at this kind of genes first approach before doing any sort of recommendation for lifestyle or diet. All right, so here are some heavy hitting genes that do come in your reports. So again, SNP looks at 22 actionable genes, and they can range from heart health to detoxification markers, to inflammatory markers like the TNF alpha or this IL-6. This FTO is considered the fat gene. And so this is a gene that really governs um, blood sugar balance and hormone, the ghrelin and leptin hormones, that hunger and satiated hormones. Um, this MTHFR, most people have heard of by now, but this one deals with methylation, and I'm going to talk to you about that in just a sec. Um, this FUT2, this one's really curious because so many of my clients have tested for this one, and it's relates to healthy gut bacterial balance. So, it's really important to have a healthy gut balance, and when you have the a balance of this bacteria that's opportunistic, it can really wreak havoc on a lot of our systems because our microbiome and gut brain axis really is a huge factor for this FUT2 gene. Um, and COMT-T, this one is so cool. I'm going to talk about that one too and have a case study on it. So this is a grouping of methylation and homocysteine regulation. It is the FUT2, it is the MTHFR, the MTRR, and this COMT. And it's basically getting the right format of folate. It's the B9, your Bs, in order to convert the homocysteine into methionine, which is non-toxic. Um, and methylation governs metabolism, detox, hormones, immune function, DNA repair. And so, how I like to talk about methylation with my clients is, why is it such a big deal? Well, it determines whether a particular gene will be turned on or off. So, every gene in every cell is ultimately tied to methylation, and it has 250 biochemical reactions in the body. So think of the first domino that goes down and it gives all these methyl donors to all these enzymatic biochemical pathways. It's like the first domino. Another way to look at it is if you have a beautiful, pristine, gorgeous lake of healthy water and a pump system going out to all the gardens and farms and houses. When you have variants or SNPs on your methylation gene, there may be a kink in one of the hoses to one of your gardens or to one of the houses. Or maybe the pump system isn't working right, so only some gardens get watered. And so what happens is that then it leads to, the farm or the garden, dying, right? And so it's not getting the water it needs, right? And so in the body, this leads to inflammation. So it can lead to cellular oxidation, which is kind of, again, like the aging of the cells, um, and nutrient deficiencies. So before, we have a client who was exposed to toxic mold in her beach condo, and her health was completely demoed, completely destroyed. So before any of my clients embark on a gut detoxification course, I look at their detoxification genes. So the client that I'm talking about, she had a red, so both parents gave her a variant on this GSTP1, and this governs phase 2 detox and is really protective against oxidative stress. And so her functional doctor she was working with as well, along with my gut detox course, provided her injections of glutathione because she needed the extra glutathione for her detox journey to be more comfortable. Essentially get a lot of the detox and antioxidant support that she needed. She also had a SNP on this SOD2, which I'll talk about in a second, and also one on this EPHX1. So she struggles, right, to detoxify. And so if you have genetic variants on these markers, it may mean that you need more support and you need to get rid of the heavy metals or the viruses or the molds more often. It's like you have a small little detox bucket. You may want to up your sauna or sweating or go really low and slow with any sort of supplementation because your liver, which is phase 1 and phase 2 detox, has some deficiencies, right? Some variants on there. So it just needs more help to do its thing. So these inflammatory genes, this is the CRP, the IL-6, and the TNF alpha. These all relate to inflammation. So you can test with blood labs your CRP levels and homocysteine levels. So what a lot of clients will do is get on their personalized code complex, their personalized supplements, and then test in 4 months or 6 months and see if these pathways and inflammation markers have been reduced. And so we talked about Sarah earlier with her vitamin D levels. We test for 4 different vitamin D genes. And vitamin D is really not so much a vitamin, but acts more like a hormone in the body because there's a vitamin D receptor on every cell in the body. So, um, we make it we get it from the sun and then we store it in the cells, and it really relates to a lot of bone health, inflammation, metabolism, gut health. And so the idea is that, I've heard providers talk about how inflammation and vitamin D levels are on a seesaw. So the less, uh, inflammation you have, the higher vitamin D levels you have. And conversely, the lower the vitamin D levels, the higher inflammation you have. I love the oxidative stress management support, and these particular genes. I've been really into studying this SOD2. This genetic SNP, it stands for superoxide dismutase, and it's an enzyme along this glutathione pathway. And when it's working properly, it converts a really gnarly um, free radical called superoxide, and it converts it into hydrogen peroxide in the body. And then we have all these other genes that will take the hydrogen peroxide and turn it into water. And so it's funny, people that have an SOD2 variant, they typically have the gray hair. Um, and that's because they don't have this enzyme, or this enzyme needs support in taking it from the hydrogen peroxide and moving it into water. So they need more glutathione support, and they need some more support for this SOD2 marker. And then I was listening to another gal speak, Dr. Lynn. Let's see if I wrote down her name. Um, yeah, I didn't have her last name here, but she's talking about how a lot of these pesticides, and if you have PON1 markers, you struggle to eliminate some of these pesticides and herbicides that are in our world. And so there was some increased risks for some chronic diseases of the nervous system, like Alzheimer's or Parkinson's. And then the GSTP1 I talked about with Kim, but it just really aids in glutathione. And this NQ01 is also deals with oxidative stress. So those are some markers. And so I wanted to take the last 5 minutes to go over some case studies with you and then talk about how you can support your genes. So this is a hormone pathway. This is like a genetic, what our genes do when it comes to hormones. And so I want to show you this because it is so can get so complicated. So there are people that are studying genes, geneticists that are, way smarter than us, and are helping us understand, in particular with nutrigenomics, how our genes relate to diet and lifestyle and nutrition. So this one I found pretty interesting too, where, schizophrenia, bipolar, major depressive disorder, these anxiety disorders, and ADHD, here's the MTHFR. I'm going to talk about this COMT. I'm going to talk about the MAOA. Um, and uh, and so here you get tested for the MAOA and COMT markers. And so interestingly, um, yeah, I'm seeing this in chat. Okay, cool. So with this MAOA, these genes are a little bit funny. You can have a variant on them, and they either are fast or slow. So if you have a slow MAOA or COMT, you build up neurotransmitters in your brain, like have high dopamine and serotonin, but you struggle to eliminate them. So you may have difficulty falling asleep or easily startled. You may be irritable or workaholic or have trouble relaxing. You may know somebody like this. So, um, conversely, so they're slow to eliminate them from their brain, right? Versus the fast MAOA or COMT, they burn through their neurotransmitters really fast, like too fast. And so their dopamine levels tend to drop and their serotonins tend to drop. And so these fast MAOA and COMT people, they're like reaching for the carbohydrates to increase their serotonin levels. And so they have difficulty staying asleep. They may have low energy, moody, or they struggle to focus, or they have motivation issues. So the COMT-T, which is everywhere, like Gary Brecka is talking about this a lot, is that it's the worrier or warrior gene. So the warrior gene has a slow COMT and the warrior gene has the fast COMT. And so it affects metabolism of the dopamine, the norepinephrine, the epinephrine, and affecting mood, energy, ability to calm down, focus. And it also affects your estrogen metabolism, which governs the estrogen levels and hormone imbalance in the body. And so, there's a lot of mental health medications out there, like the MAOA inhibitors and the SSRIs. And so, the idea here is that if you can support these genes, then maybe you can reduce the amount of medications that you're taking because so you can supplement for what they call it, the raw materials that your body needs, right? They call it the hardware, supplementing for this hardware versus the software. Okay. So let's look at a case study. So this is one of my clients. She had both mold toxicity and bipolar. And so, again, or she has bipolar. But the idea is that, if you're methylating poorly, you may have anxiety, gas, bloating, irritability, IBS, ADHD, bipolar. And so the idea of homeostatic neuroplasticity is getting neurotransmitters, which hers were all over the place in June of 2022. So she had high levels of mold during this time. And she was not taking her code complex. And so the idea is getting these stress hormone and neurotransmitters in balance so that the client wasn't just, she did our gut detoxification course and was taking her customized supplements and working with a mental or a hormone replacement therapy doctor for her levels. But what's interesting is that also seeing a psychiatrist. So she was having to take lithium and Xanax, very heavy hitter, drugs to fall asleep. They're like the big hammers. And so, that's why they need to be super closely monitored. And so, after being on the code complex and going through the detox course and getting her HRT levels monitored, she's saying now that her HRT doctor is lowering these levels of hormones for her estrogen and progesterone, and she's feeling like she doesn't need to rely on some of these heavy hitter medications like she used to, and you can see why. It's these neurotransmitters are getting into balance. So you can watch her testimonial on my website, but it's really cool to see how different layers of support can help clients. So here we're just to show you an example. This is my code complex report, or my not these are my genetic markers. So in my case, it's the mystery autoimmune gut toxic load. I have every marker in the book pretty much. So when I finally saw these, I cried, and it wasn't tears of like sadness. It was tears of like, thank God. I didn't know I wasn't working with a full deck, right? And so I was never one of those people that took a multivitamin or supplement. I would just supplement here and there with maybe like a curcumin or turmeric or like a fish oil. And then I saw my genes and I was like, oh my God, like maybe you need some more support. So it starts to feel really good when you can start to connect the dots, like our last client, and everything starts to come together. So I only have one red marker, but it's nice to understand when I get my high LDL levels back that this is what this marker is, has to deal with lipids. And so I really focus on, I have low levels of triglycerides and I have high HDL, so the good cholesterol. So I'm okay with that. But I'm taking a code complex, a customized formula to help smooth out all these other pathways. So the one I'm just going to share real quick is this FTO. So that's that fat gene. I've always been extremely hungry, and my mom always would tell me it's because of I had low blood sugar. Well, the reality is that this gene governs blood sugar, but it also governs two hormones called one is leptin, one is ghrelin. And this is when your body feels satiated, it's like, oh, I'm full, or that hunger hormone where it's like I'm hungry and then it's like, oh, I'm no longer hungry. So um these have always been kind of dirty in my case. I've always been hungry. And so when I take my full dose, the what I'm going to talk about, the ten capsules, the full dose of the recommended amount of my formula, it is in this format called dihydroberberine. And it's 20 times more effective and 5 times more absorbable than regular berberine. And I can tell immediately that it's like it it just dampens that like unsatisfied feeling for me, where I need something to chew on like a snack, right? Or my blood sugar. So this when I saw that this format was in here, I like was so thrilled. And so that's just one that I know for myself. And the last thing I'll share is my mentor teacher, Andrea Nakayama. She has a great article on her site about Dr. Del Bredesen's work around Alzheimer's and plugging the 36 holes in the roof. So that's his analogy for Alzheimer's. It's not just one thing. There's 36 holes in the roof that you need to plug when it comes to brain diseases like Alzheimer's. And so his recommendations for supporting brain diseases, like he has nutritional recommendations. And so having the B12s, having the right B9, the right folate, the methylfolate, the TMG, the trimethylglycine, the curcumin, the ashwagandha, the D3, the K2, um, a lot of the polyphenols, the blueberries, the I call them the reds and the greens, the NAC, the alpha lipoic acid, the CoQ10, the zinc, the resveratrol. These are all in your code complex. It's already there. So you don't have to think about it. So for me, I was like, saw all this and I was like, oh my gosh, how nice. So today you learned what the heck is nutrigenomics, and you can now explain it at a party. You can pinpoint a couple of your genetic markers in yourself and others. You can understand applied genetic testing. And I'm going to talk about a low cost and simplified way to support your genes. Hooray! Okay, so this is where you can supplement based on your genetic deficiencies. And so this is what I'm going to show you. So you get a genetic report, like the one I showed you. It shows you your reds, it shows you your yellows. and you get tested for 103 different genes. And the customized compound formula is on those key genes, those 22 key genes. And same with those reports, you get 10 different reports with those key genetic groupings and the option to purchase your own customized formula in capsules or in powder. And um, the swab test or the test that you take to test your genes, it's just a 5-minute cheek swab and it gets delivered to your door. You do a 5-minute cheek swab and you put it in the vials and you send it off. And in 3 weeks, you're going to get your genetic reports and the option to purchase your supplements. And what I love about them, because I have a lot of clients that are very health conscious and are also in the health space. And so the genetic lab test is HIPAA compliant, it's CLIA compliant. We do third-party testing on the supplements for heavy metals. And we test the blends, we test the raw formula, we test your own product before it goes out every single time. So, um, this is where the nutrigenomics gets really exciting for me, is because the quality of the formulations and the the ingredients. Like my one of my health coach friends, she saw one of there used to be an ingredient on the bottom that was like a preservative, and I told Kim Russer, the CEO, that she was not happy to see this particular preservative in the formula, and she's like, "Oh, it's already coming out." So she is super amazing about making sure that this formula is always, the best. Um, so it's efficient, it's effective, it has the safety, you can have it consistency, and the simplicity is like my dream. So there we go. I was talking about Kim. Okay. So also I have the free genetic interpretation. So I do this online for anybody that purchases their reports. And so those two things together. So I'm going to stop my recording here because this is only for a couple days. Where's my, so the buy one, get one for 50% off is only good until the 14th. So I've never seen them do a sale in the 2 years that I've been working with these guys. So I'm like, ooh, that's pretty cool. So the checkout is love for you. That's the coupon code. And so I know Michelle's thinking about doing this for her daughters. So that's kind of cool. But just Michelle, if you're here, just consider getting this in before the 14th to get the bonus or the sale. And yeah, I'm gonna stop my share, or actually, I'm gonna stop my share and get the recording back on. Yes, I did film it. I'll have to clip it myself. Okay, so Michelle and Auntie, if you have any questions, feel free to come off mute or type them in chat, whatever you feel like doing. Um, I'm happy to answer any questions. And what'd you think?
Hi.
Hi, honey.
Let's see. Do you want to see me? There I am.
Ah,
Yeah, I had to run home to get service. That was lovely. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm trying to think about any questions. I didn't know that about vitamin D, so that was really awesome.
okay, cool.
And I'm trying to think. let's see what else. I think I did have a question. So can you remind me, please, about what you're talking about with the uh, unable to folate? Like what exactly you said in that area?
Yeah, I didn't want to like go too deep of a dive in there, but my auntie's here and it was really cool because I'm learning that if you have a variant on the MTHFR, folic acid is like our kryptonite because
Yes.
it's synthetic and it's not in the right format. It's our body wants the methylated format of the folate. I mean, we can get it with our leafy greens and all these other lovely things we do. But the idea is if we can give our body the right format of the folate, then it helps to methylate properly.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. No, I just, that was the only thing I had a question about, but we could talk about that on a different day if you like.
Well, I mean, what more do you want to know? Because it's like basically the folic acid is in a lot of, if you turn over tortillas at Costco, it's,
Oh, it's in everything. Like I have to, I mean, I buy the really good cassava tortillas that don't have any guar gum in them. But yeah, no, I have to. Yeah, I. That's why I had to get reading glasses, is because I had to find out if it had any folic acid. You know, so yeah, I found a huge difference in my well-being. Um, inflammation wise and weight wise, just eliminating that for sure. Because it's been about 9 months, I think, since I did that test, and it's made a huge difference.
uh, yay.
Huge difference. Yes.
It's like we didn't know. As I was like, I would make this puff pancake pastry as a kid, like every weekend, and it was just all this flour and have all my Kraft macaroni and cheese and pastas, and it's like, what was
Yep.
I was just ah,
Yeah. I mean, I'm okay if I eat them every now and then, I'm
right.
not like crazy, but yeah, just making sure if I do want to eat bread, it's the right kind of bread. And yeah, it's in everything. I read every package. It's crazy, but it definitely gave me a huge awareness as to everything I was putting in my body that wasn't really conducive to my wellness and my mental health too.
Amen. Yeah.
Yeah, so I really want to get uh Kennedy tested, so because she has a lot of the symptoms like the worrier you talked about.
Mhm. Slow, calm.
So hopefully when she gets home, she'll be able to balance her lifestyle a little bit better, and then that will help with her mental health.
I love it. And I love that you said like balance her lifestyle first.
Yes.
That's the thing. I keep reading with Dr. Ben Lynch. It's like, yeah, we have these tools, these supplement tools, but we got to work on the lifestyle first. So,
Exactly, exactly. And I think it will just give her, um, sometimes people at that age, they need proof. Mom is not enough.
oh yeah. I'm like, so Michelle, meet my fabulous auntie from New Zealand.
Hi,
Aw,
Michelle.
hi, how are you?
I'm good. Yeah, once I figured out how to, my laptop would not connect to the meeting again, so I had to use my phone. That's
Ah,
why I'm late.
no problem. Well, what the little bit that you got was like the neurotransmitter piece, but what do you have any questions, Sue, or any comments?
No, I'll go back and watch the podcast because probably the part that I was really interested in, the methylated part, you probably did it all at the beginning. And my whole take is that look, you're gonna spend money. you're going to spend money on food, on entertainment, on lifestyle. Why not spend money on yourself, getting yourself in the best shape possible to live the best life as long as possible? So I would rather
Yes.
go without going out to dinner or without going out to a movie and, like, for example, buy the vitamin B that my body can really absorb and use. It's twice as much as the regular vitamin B, but why spend $30 when your body can't absorb it instead of spending $60 when your body can?
Right. And
So it is sometimes a struggle when you're on a limited income. When you're retired or something, you really have to look at where you spend your money carefully.
absolutely.
But why not spend it on yourself? Shrouds don't have pockets, so you're not taking it with you. So you might as well improve your quality of life, is kind of how I look at it.
I love it, Sue. Yeah, and not only does that folic acid is not an absorbable form, it's literally blocking your cell receptors if you have an MTHFR SNP. It's just like not good for us.
Yeah, yeah. And this is the stuff that you're so bombarded with information these days,
Totally.
and you you can go down so many rabbit holes, Taylor, investigating
Yes.
that I'd rather you go down the rabbit holes and just tell me what I need to know, because my time is valuable too. So
Yeah. No, it's so cool. And yeah, I'm like working with some of the best and reading some of the coolest. And so yeah, that's the idea is make it simple. I'm trying to make it simplified. I'm over the complicated mess too, to be quite
yeah,
honest.
yeah,
So cool.
yeah. I'll look at doing that personalized supplement when I get back to Oregon,
Yeah.
because I don't think they ship to New Zealand yet.
Not yet. I think they can ship to the UK, they can ship to some other